Recording in progress.
All righty. For the record, we are Wednesday, November 12th of 2025, and this is the Profitable Real Estate Agent Plan, where we go over our strategy step by step. It is actually week 4, but week 4 is the new week 3 because I scrambled them up last time. So we're going to do a little backwards step into one of my favorite subjects, which has to do with the head stuff. So let me make sure that I bring up. Let me see what I'm bringing up here. I want to bring up, not that, but this. Nope. Too many windows, too little time. Okay. All right. So you should be seeing on the Zoom, you should be seeing the Profitable Real Estate Agent Plan outline. Are you seeing that?
Yes.
Good. And then let me just make sure I'm still doing that for the gang on YouTube. See if we're out there. Okay. Okay. All right. I think we're going fine here, so I'm not going to worry about YouTube too much. We'll give it a whirl. But we are in like I said, week 3, actually, even though I've already jumped ahead and done 4 for you, did the content marketing. And I want to move this backwards to this financial goal setting thing and just tie in why I put the head stuff in this order this time. It's interesting. I was talking to yet another would-be Griffin agent I talked to before. She has a background in real estate coaching, actually, with a pretty high-profile coaching company for quite some time. And it was funny. She started talking about having and feeling the imposter syndrome because although she's coached it, she's never done it. And you know, that's right up my alley for all of you because I get into this psycho-cybernetics conversation or mind steering systems. I think there's a lot of books that I would say generally changed the trajectory of my life as a small business person, but also as a coach and a guide, but none more important than this conversation that I'm about to have with you tonight. I use the techniques that will be discussed tonight myself pretty regularly, especially as an investor. I can tell you very clearly there's been several times where I decided I wanted to own a certain building, drove by it and just used the techniques to imagine myself already owning it and ended up doing the deals. So it's amazing how this works. And I'll get into some more of the nitty gritty when I go through it. But when it comes to becoming a profitable real estate agent, it does happen in the mind first. And Wendy, all kidding aside, you know, that's one of the most serious things that you and I were working on. And by the way, I want to applaud Wendy in front of everybody. She's new to this business, but does exactly what we asked her to do. Went out to the neighbor who she thought was going to sell, got them a package of information. I went out and she shadowed me doing the listing presentation, and we had some bumps in the road. So we coached through that, and I believe that she's technically secured it. So bravo. And there were some things I'll talk about in there, not to embarrass her, but to show how you have to tell yourself a different story than the one you walk into. So the imposter syndrome actually has come up quite a bit lately. And I want to talk to that because I think sometimes when you see somebody like me coach this or talk about this, you say, oh yeah, but that's you. That's not me. Well, there's the first mistake. And it turns out there's actually a technique for that. And it's applicable to all sorts of facets of your life. I use it very aggressively right now with my twin boys who are 22 years old, who are developing out a self-image to be successful in a banking environment in New York City and getting themselves internships, getting themselves full-time offers. And we talk about this a lot, and they practice it a lot. And some wonderful things have happened in their life since they learned how to practice these techniques, because it's just really strange how it is easier and far easier than you would think to get a lot of the things in life you want. I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to sit here and tell myself that I'm going to play in the NBA at almost 60 years old and 5'9" and a half and 3/4 on my best day. It's not going to happen, right? So there's a reality to the application of these techniques, but they really can work in this business tremendously well for anybody that's willing to be teachable, then come in for coaching and adjustment, and then seek the mentoring in the heat of the moment to make sure things get done. And Wendy's done that extraordinarily well. So I'm going to talk about her case tonight as I go through this, because it's real live adjustment using these techniques that is actually leading towards business. And isn't that why we're all here? right? So let me get to where I'd like to be for the presentation. And let me spin it down, and you can all tell me after I change this when you can see this.
It's up.
Okay, you can see that already? Well, that's good. Let me see. It's on the other site that I need to bring it up. Hey, everybody on YouTube. Oh, wait a minute. We get some hackers out there. That's good. Bear with me. Okay, there we go. We got some hackers out there tonight on YouTube. Oh God, life is just so fascinating, isn't it? My God. I got bot attacked in the middle of a profitable agent plan. That's good. All right, let me see here. Let's get to this. Okay. Voila. There we go. All right. So let me start this slideshow and talk about this a little bit. Oh, that is not the one. See, I got rattled there, Shauna. I got attacked. Okay, here's the right one. I cracked myself up tonight. Okay, so how to develop your profitable agent mindset is very much about that book, Psycho-Cybernetics. So I will actually, before I get into it, tell you the book Psycho-Cybernetics is loosely translated as Mind Steering Systems, which is what we're going to talk about tonight. And it's written by a gentleman by the name of Maxwell Maltz. I'll bring it up on Amazon afterwards. I have all the books I recommend with tabs open here for this call so I can go through it, because you should be doing the reading, because this is your commitment to a strategic understanding of what's happening. Okay. So to that end, Maxwell Maltz was a very successful plastic surgeon in the early part of the 1900s. He was influenced by other people that I'm a huge fan of and that you should read, not the least of which is Napoleon Hill, his book, Law of Success, but more commonly known book, Think and Grow Rich. And so Maltz would have been influenced by a lot of those early mindset thinkers. And he had this unique experience growing up in the Bronx, becoming a plastic surgeon, and realizing a lot of what changes a person is not what you do physically to them with a scalpel, but what they see. And so he talks a lot about self-image. So let's get through that. The theater of the mind is something that he references in the book, where you can visualize and create your ideal self-image. So I say this often, that if you've ever seen an Olympic athlete prepare for an event, you'll watch them close their eyes and they'll begin to kind of go through a twitched out routine. And you can surmise pretty quickly that what they're doing is imagining themselves going through the dive, going through the ski jump. So anything that really requires a lot of physical coordination, you can see people really envisioning it. Sometimes you'll catch a hockey player before the game sitting on the bench and just eyes closed, imagining things. And what they're doing, whether they know it or not, consciously, is they're visualizing inside of this theater of the mind how things are about to go. So you can see yourself skating, diving, or selling, telemarketing, door knocking. You can apply it to anything. And what's stunningly powerful about this is, again, when there's mental rehearsal, your nervous system doesn't know the difference between that mental rehearsal and actual real live action. Doesn't know the difference. Your nervous system, you do, but your nervous system doesn't. So you're programming it. But what you're seeing visually is you acting differently than the way you perceive yourself to be currently. So let's go back to this whole idea of this imposter. So you have to actually see yourself as an imposter to say I'm an imposter. And the way that that manifests and comes out of your mouth is, for example, we went into this house, Wendy and I, her neighbor's house, and she did not tell the neighbor I was actually coming. And that has a lot to do with nervousness too. And, you know, you're trying to almost make things the way you think that other person is going to like you, right? Instead of just being firm that I have a strong self-image, that I have joined this company and this is my partner and we have a system, and together we're going to go in there and explain this system to empower these people. So if you don't practice that, it doesn't play out like that. So it didn't. Now, again, in fairness to Wendy, I haven't really trained her rigorously on this or really had her go do this. So I would do that now. And I would also say to her that when we walk through the door, you would never say, I'm an imposter, right? Now, I make it sound absurd, but that's essentially what happened. Because the minute we hit the floor, I was introduced as, you know, her broker or her partner, and I was there because, you know, I'm new at this. I'm an imposter, right? So I do understand that that's a reality for a lot of you. I do understand that most of you are newer to this business and have not done it, but you're not new to life. You're not new to dealing with people. You've lived life. And I mean, our youngest agents are what? Several of you are 23, 24 years old. You've lived a lot of life by 23, 24 years old. So you should feel strong as a person that you're capable. And that's a lot to do with self-esteem, which is a whole other book, by the way, Nathaniel Braden's book, where he talks about the pillars of self-esteem. But when it comes to self-esteem, there's really two cores. One is self-efficacy, meaning self-capability. So are you capable of having an intelligent conversation with another human being? I would hope so by the age of 23, 24, and then beyond, right? So that's a very core skill in real estate. The ability to be able to converse with somebody in an intelligent, well thought out way. That's a self-image that I hope we all, you know, see ourselves as having, because you have to go out and make a living somehow. You have to go out and shop and talk to the person when you're looking for something for food, right? I mean, it's a basic survival ability to be able to stand on your own 2 feet and be capable of surviving in this world. And if we're all sitting here, it's working. So self-efficacy or self-capability, you have that. You just don't know the context. This is a big word for me in this course. You don't have context as a real estate agent. So yes, it feels a little weird when you put that jacket on for the first time, but that doesn't throw away every other capability that you have as a person who's able to discuss something with somebody else. The other side of it is self-worthiness. And ladies, I'm going to emphasize and highlight this for you. In all of my many, many years of coaching, 20 years, guys can be more aggressive in overstating their abilities, right? But women, in my estimation and my experience, will understate it. So they'll come across as feeling less worthy. Who am I? That's also a pillar or a foundational piece of that imposter syndrome. Who am I? I'm not worthy. And again, I hope that you're all here at least realizing you're capable of learning a system from me that I've promised you would probably be 5th grade simple in its understanding. But all these components of self, image, and the way that we see ourselves doing the thing. So you could actually be bipolar for this conversation and say, sure, I could learn this. This isn't rocket science. I've learned things that are much tougher than this. But how could I ever go use it? So there's the gap that we have to bridge. And that's all through self-image. And that's all through self-image practice. So your self-image can either limit or empower you depending on your beliefs and perceptions. So if I believe when I hit the front door that I am an imposter, that I'm so new to this that I'm incapable of remembering 7 steps, okay? Let that sink in. You're so limiting in your beliefs and perceptions about where you stand today that you're just going to say, there's no way I could remember these 7 steps. And I'll let Wendy weigh in on this because we're fresh off this experience, but I really follow a system when I go through a house. And Earl Roberts could tell you the same thing this week because I did it with him too. Now, both of these folks ended up getting the listings. And again, I only wanted to demonstrate to them that once how systematic this is and how systematically I follow it. In both cases, I walked through the house and I asked, could I have a tour of the property? Right. And I joke and I always say nickel tour. So, meaning the cheap tour, right? Could I just have the quick and dirty tour? So we went through this. It was interesting about Wendy's case is that woman's self-image as a homeowner was disastrous. We have a leaky roof here and we've had water coming in the basement here. And because of that, we should sell to a developer. And it's just, we're never, it was so negative that her self-image as a homeowner was going to need my scalpel. And the way I was going to do that was through this system of education, because her beliefs and perceptions about what she had were so negative. I can argue that without Wendy's guidance and without this system in that guidance, this lady was going to lose significant amounts of money if she had limited herself to trying to sell just to a developer. Okay. So you can see this play out not only for yourself, but the people that you're across the table from, right? And I will tell you the hardest thing these days is to deal with a seller whose self-image is, or a buyer, because I have two of them. One just closed, one's closing. Their self-image is so paranoid about being taken advantage of that they begin to turn on everybody, including me. And so it really takes a self-image for me to stay calm in that when somebody turns on me, especially after I've done a really good job negotiating on both of their behalves. So your natural reaction in a self-image for me would be to defend myself, to fight back, to tell them how great I did. Whereas my new self-image is like, okay, absorb it. Data received, absorb it, figure out how to counter it, right? With data and information to bring this person back into a place that's calm. Well, that's a real live example for me right now. So this isn't some book that you read and then you put on the shelf for the rest of your life. This is actually a technique to learn, like a bag of tools. So as part of this strategic approach, you have to know how to manipulate your self-image to manipulate the situation. And when I say manipulate, I mean obviously in a benevolent way in this campus, right? But you have to learn how to manipulate your self-image to be successful in a moment. Especially in our business, which is the single largest financial and emotional combination that most people will make in a lifetime. And it freaks really smart, nice people out, and they become this demon in the middle of you. So who are you in that moment? Who can you become in that moment? Can you make that adjustment? Now, some go swimmingly beautiful, and you just go right down the greased, skids to the motherland, and everything is great. Sure, you'll get some of those. But for the most part, that's not going to happen. So if we begin with a self-image that's a little bit shaky to begin with, and we feel like we're an imposter, we don't feel like we're capable of being a good, successful real estate agent, right? All of that collides into this beef stew of negativity. So how do you think you're going to do when you get a challenge at the table, in the house, during negotiation? How do you think you're going to do? You're going to, by the way, under pressure, default to the most comfortable self-image that you've developed over the course of your life. Now, a lot of that has to do with personality profiles and things like that. So, for example, I'm a high DI on the DISC personality profile, which means I have a lot of dominant trait or desire in me, and I also have a lot of influential trait or desire, and they're balanced. But if you put me under pressure, if you attack me, I'm going to bite you. Right? That's my D. The I is going to just be pushed aside and I'm going to bite you. And that's not good, because I can tell you many times by not staying calm in those moments, I ultimately, even though I didn't start it, I was the cause of a deal falling apart. So this became a very, very important thing for me to, number one, understand myself, and number two, use this tool set to adapt. Okay. Now, to change your self-image, you need to change your habits, actions, and thoughts. So those would be some of those things that I'm talking about. So let's switch this around a little bit, because what I'll do is I'll say thoughts first. So what Maxwell Maltz talks about, especially in this book, is sitting still towards the end of the night. So for example, tonight, once this all quiets down, the appropriate way to slow your brain down is light a candle, turn off the lights, like bring the lighting down, bring everything into a calm place where you start to get into a relaxed state because you're tired, not sleepy out cold, but just relax. You sit in a nice warm spot where you're happy, candles going, and you just close your eyes and you start to imagine yourself going on a listing presentation with what you know of this system. And if you took the smallest little bite of our system, you could take something as simple. You might not be able to see this with this screen up there, but I'm holding up the infographic, which is 5th grade simple. Okay. Can't make this simpler. There's 7 things here that are remedial reading, simple reading that you could read to somebody. If you could imagine yourself walking into a house, in Wendy's case, into her neighbors with just this, saying, after I take, a tour through the house, instead of bringing my business card, I'm going to bring this, and I'm going to talk to them about the 7 steps. If you can't imagine yourself doing that, you got some real problems in your general life, right? Because you do things that are so much more complicated than that. So you begin to start simply. You don't look at what I can do completely and then explain yourself away, because me, after 26 years of doing it, 20 of teaching it, every week grinding it, I still only do the basics because the person across the table from me doesn't know anything about the process. So why would I start to talk about me or show off me, talk about my resume? Why would I do any of that? Because that person across from me, I'm trying to influence them to understand how simply the process should be followed, and to follow me through that, and to not worry and sweat all of the micro details that are in these 7 steps, but to trust me that I'm following something. So I see myself that way, so I can lead them to see their self-image improving. And I believe that's why Wendy eventually is getting this deal, because I think what happened with her neighbor, as much as her husband, myself, and Wendy want to talk about like the craziness that they have, we stayed calm. I told her, as far as you're concerned now, I'm dead. I'm gone from this deal. Don't mention my name again, because what they were doing was using me a little bit as a whipping post, because they were so anxious. So they don't want to beat up on Wendy. They have to look at her every day. She's the neighbor. So they came after me. I said, okay, watch, make me super small and stop saying you're new. Stop pretending you're an imposter and lean into this. You know a builder? Get him there. She did. He came in, he gave a number. 850, can't go any higher. And it turns out he's super savvy. He's well known in the town. He knows the town rules. She relays that to him, to the seller. And the seller almost goes into a panic, because guess what? It's exactly what I told them probably would happen, right? Exactly. That I'd be surprised if a builder gave you 950. He said no higher than 850. And we had told them 1,095,000, 1,001,000-ish, right? Could be a reasonable thing. Why? Because even though you believe that you're, as a self-image homeowner of a negative house, in the eyes of somebody who's a first-time home buyer, it's a grand slam. They can fix the roof, no problem. They can put a trench around, no problem. So all of this stuff, right, starts with thinking. It's all thinking. So if you just sit at home at night, calm down, lights down, get into a private place, no interruptions, and say, I can imagine myself having a bunch of prospects on my contact pipeline manager, and when they close, I can see it closing and being one of those deals that I put up there where it's the median price or above. I got the 2.5%. That's one of those good deals that turns all green for me. Just, you have to go through those exercises in your head, seeing it happen, seeing you, not hearing my stories or Annabelle's stories or somebody else's stories. Seeing yours before they ever happen is a thought. Now, what happens there is you take the action step, because you saw it last night, one of these deals closing. So you come back a step in the system and you see the contact pipeline manager empty, but you see, oh, I know how to do that. I pick one for sale by owner or one expired a week. I make one package for that person. Then I put that in my front seat and I see myself driving by Monday. Oh, I didn't get them in the morning. I'm going to drive by Tuesday evening. And you begin to imagine it actually playing out. And then all of a sudden, what happens is you're developing a habit. Oh, I did that this week and I got it to the door. Guy took the package. He asked me to follow up because he's going to try a couple more weeks himself to sell it. Oh, I took the next package to my neighbor. I actually got a listing presentation. Hey, guess what? I got the listing. I got to do this again next week. So from thinking before it ever happens to taking the tactical action steps that we teach you, you're building habits. And if you can stay inside of that imagining, action, habit, if you can stay inside of that, that's what's starting to build a sustainable, predictable business. But the minute you stop imagining you being successful, you start to atrophy on the action steps. You start not showing up to coachings and trainings, and you wilt because your thinking is thinking, right? That's the problem. So the whole idea of psycho-cybernetics begins in the theater of the mind, where you see a new self going through these motions, building a business. And we are giving you wildly specific steps to build these habits, which is why we always say, please don't wing it. Please don't try to do this in muscle. Please don't make up your own scripting and your own stuff. Because what we've already done for you is a ton of the thinking. We've taken thousands of hours of action. We've built habits, and we can see them producing results. And not just for me and the other top producers I coach, but for agents that are brand new. I have 3 agents right now that we can celebrate listings: Danielle Gonzalez, Wendy McGrath, and Earl Roberts. We can celebrate new listings right now. And Deirdre Zarella, I'll throw in another one. I don't know how many of them are on here tonight, but there's 4 newer agents that have successfully thought, taken an action step, and now hopefully we'll build that into a habit. Okay. So these are real anecdotes. Now, by using positive affirmations and visualizations, you can reprogram your subconscious mind. See, this is really what Maltz really wants to get down to, is we have this unbelievable, it's sort of like, think about AI right now, right? It's this large language model that's always learning. It's a little bit beyond my pay grade, but I keep trying to pay attention to it. The current level is just basically doing research, and inference is just beginning to happen, and then ultimately, like, real thinking, deep thinking type of AI will happen. Well, you already have deep thinking, and you already have the language model and the mindset model that can be programmed right now. It's many, many times more sophisticated than AI is, many more times. But yet we marvel at AI. We go talk to ChatGPT in the car. Like, can you believe it? I'm having a full-blown conversation and I'm getting all the answers I want. But yet you won't have a conversation with your subconscious mind and allow it to be resourceful, to become this new self-imaged thing, and to be something that's monetizing for you. And see, the self-image is really, I told you, I'll go back to the story about me as an investor. I always use these techniques. I try to identify, and it's a habit. So when I drive around, I'm looking for a distressed property, meaning not something that's completely, a knockdown, but something that's distressed. Like, there's a problem. It's in a tough neighborhood, but it's a really good product. And it's only like in a tough neighborhood being treated like that because the lights aren't on, the windows are broken. So that's programmed into me as a habit to look for that kind of property. Then once I identify it, I make sure in my mind's eye that my formula will work. Can I clean this up and extract value, raise rents, get it financed? But I never worry about, well, how am I going to get it financed? In fact, the last one, I had 3 deals come together at once because I had these things going on at the same time, and all of a sudden they were together, and it all worked out. Let's just put it that way, okay? My subconscious mind became wildly, wildly resourceful, and I found the resources I needed to do this. So it's staggering to me. Now, I will tell you about Griffin as an entity. I have always imagined it where it's going right now. I've imagined it in multiple states. I imagined you all here before. I imagined being able to share with you in that true person for others Jesuit philosophy, the very things that I learned, so that you could go out and help your neighbor, help the lady from church. Earl's story is awesome. A 99-year-old patron of his church, a wonderful woman. Once we started to dig into Boston history, we shared a lot, right? What a wonderful, beautiful moment to watch him hold her hand and say, I just want you to know, I just want to be able to get you to where you want to be. Like, I wanted to just make myself so small that I disappeared so they could have this beautiful moment. That's what I imagined happening with this company. And so it's beginning to happen. I didn't know how, but I just realized, okay, just keep being resourceful, keep refining. So you can do little things, you can do big people things. It's just stunning, but you have to understand that it's not something that it's knowledge that was out there and I'm just your conduit. You have to go listen to this book and read this book and then practice it. And by the way, it's not the only book that talks about this stuff. You could go back to, if you go back to success thinking, like I told you, Maxwell Maltz is a man of the 1940s, 50s, right? But if you go back, Napoleon Hill in the late 1800s really starts to interview some of the greatest minds of the Industrial Revolution. But then if you go back further, you can find Wallace Wattles. And then if you go back further into a religious context, you can see all this stuff in the Bible, right? It's like stunning how old this is. And I'm sure if you go before the Bible and if you can find something that's recorded history, you're going to see the whole concept of thinking things into existence. So none of this is new. It's just that you need to know it's available to you today. But it's not something, I think if some of you are old enough to remember The Secret, I say that because some of you are young enough to not. But The Secret was this video that came out with a bunch of people, Bob Proctor and a couple of people that I knew from the coaching world. And as if like this thing was an amazing new discovery that, you know, you could just imagine things into existence. And there is a fine line. Like I said at the beginning of this, I'm not going to be 6'7" and 20 years old again, right? Ever. I wasn't ever 6'7", by the way, but I'm not going to be 20 years old again and make the NBA, right? Plus I wouldn't want to do that anyway. I would want to make the NHL. So that's not going to happen. So this is not a hocus pocus bullshit thing. This is actually the things that are within the realm of possibilities physically. You can get them and then some. And I can tell you by looking at my book of business, I thought very clearly and very specifically in the theater of my mind that this would be a luxury company and that I would move my average sale up. And I am happy to report right now, as of the last closing, thanks to Kathy pursuing it with me and Laura, I have an average sale of 1.1. And I am telling you, it's not that long ago where I was very regularly only selling $350,000 properties. Now, some of that did come from the amazing run in inflation in real estate, but let's pretend we doubled prices. I'd still only be at 700. If I took 350 times 2, I'm at 700. That doesn't account for this other huge gap that goes another 100% plus. How can that happen? How can that be? I'm showing you. I am just showing you. Now, it doesn't happen overnight. You don't go home and go, woo, this is great. I'm going to wake up tomorrow and start selling $5 million houses. It doesn't happen like that either. It simply starts by you saying, I'm going to imagine myself using these methodologies to find listings at or above the median within the geography that I really want to do business. And I see myself as a self-image, somebody who's disciplined to once a week pick one house for the 44 weeks he teaches us to do. And I'm going to get my yeses or nos. When I get my yeses, they're going to go on to my contact pipeline manager. At the beginning of the month, I'm going to come and I'm going to print out all my packages to update these people. I'm going to use the very specific script to say, did you get the stuff? Wonderful. You still on track for such and such? Great. Don't write, and on it goes. You just talk yourself through this in your mind constantly. What's happening is it's becoming entrenched in there. And you're taking synapses. When you first hear me talk about this stuff strategically on this course, your synapses are very far apart and they're not firing together. But then you come a couple of times and it's beginning to make sense. And then you take an action step and you stop at a FISBO and something connects. I had a pretty good conversation with that guy, says Wendy, right? He still wants to do it himself, but I gave him the package, a little connection. Then I went to my neighbor's, had another good one. And you won't believe it. I had a listing presentation. Oh boy, she's talking crazy. Now we fall off a little bit. Yeah, but hang in there, coaching. Hang in there. Don't give up. Don't talk about me anymore. Stop saying you knew. And everything starts to rewire again. Now we go through and we get our first deal. We have a real connection, right? Gotta be careful because you got to protect it. You have to keep feeding that. That was great. I can do that again. So we keep strengthening that. And over time, what happens is you create a new neural network that's got sheathing wrapped around it. Like imagine a speed tunnel. Like imagine the tunnel that goes from one side of Boston to the airport. It's wrapped, it's safe, and things are speeding through it. That's what you're developing over time, is a neural network that just is habitual, that you are working in there's a hierarchy of consciousness, okay? When you all first come to something like this, you are unconsciously incompetent in this. Now you're aware of it, and that's when you say, I'm an imposter, right? Because you're unconsciously incompetent. But then you become somewhat competent because you come to this and you understand, that's the way the business worked. I never knew that. So now you're unconsciously, right? Or I'm sorry, consciously incompetent because you haven't done it yet. Okay. Now you practice it. So you become consciously competent. And then at the highest level, you become unconsciously competent. Now, I would say to you, in many ways, I never want to feel like I'm unconsciously competent in this. I always don't know something. That's why tomorrow's calls, Thursday calls are sacred to me. I know it's the hardest call I do in my coaching program because I'm stitching, words together in a script. I'm thinking about an open house formula. It's painful, but I'm obsessed by it and of it because I have to make sure I never think I know all of how a system should work, how a business should work. I am dedicated forever to the process of constant, never-ending improvement because I learned that from the Japanese philosophy of a Kaizen, right? And so when you look at all of this, sometimes it's just such a fun game when you're going through a listing presentation and you're just quote unquote dialed. Because I have done it now so many times in my head. I have done it so many times physically. I have helped many of you do it physically or coached you that I'm dialed. But I still never take it for granted. I have never oops. What's that?
What'd you say? You're what?
Dialed.
You're
dialed. It's a saying. Yeah. You're dialed in, right?
dialed in.
Yeah. Dialed in. Yep. So I did the short version, dialed. So when you're that unconsciously competent, you have to be actually careful too, because it's like, think about if you've ever been to the ballet, an orchestra, a professional sports game, you always see pros warming up and you're like, that's interesting. Why do I see a bunch of hockey players at a Bruins game out there for a pregame skate shooting the puck? Because they're tightening up the wiring, right? They don't take it for granted. They just come out flat-footed. They're tightening up the wiring, shoot a few pucks, right? You see football players loosen it up a little bit, get the limbs going, but get the the synapses firing. Get them firing. Just because you have a sheathed, neural network to be a pro at something, you got to fire them. So from rookie to expert, it doesn't matter. It's who will continue to do the most thinking about this so that they fire up that stuff and fire up that subconscious mind. Now, let's go beyond psychocybernetics to this DISC personality profile. I think it is really important. I think Tony Robbins still has a freebie, or disc.com. I think every time I bring it up, somebody's kind enough to put it in the chat where you can go take this for free or pay. I can't remember. It used to be free, but there was a guy by the name of Dr. Marston Moulton. And he developed the lie detector test for the FBI. And he also developed the DISC personality profile. And it is uncanny how accurate this thing is, right? So the DISC personality profile stands for dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. So when I took this test the first time, I recall myself being like I think an 11I and a 10D. Okay. So those were my positive traits that I related myself to. And what was crazy, I had the exact negative opposites on steadiness and conscientiousness. So conscientiousness, which is really like the detailed person, I was -11 naturally. And for steadiness, I was -10. Sounds like an ADDer, right? So probably. So the point being is that I needed to take that inventory to become consciously incompetent as a manager of all this head stuff, right? Had to become consciously incompetent. So by taking that inventory, I'm like, oh, okay. So naturally, I'm not this according to this test. I can now understand why I have, I'm very driven. I was always driven as an athlete. I'm totally driven as an entrepreneur. And I like to help and teach, and that's totally influential. But also the yin to the yang on all this stuff is, even though those are my positives, if I overdo them, they're my negatives. So it's a crazy inventory that just makes you fully aware. And so now what you understand is your natural behavior and communication tendencies. So what I came to realize on this whole part of this development more in detail of a self-image, that when I was giving presentations, that I was talking too much, that I would go in with a presentation and I was just talking until basically they raised the white flag and surrendered and say, okay, we'll list with you if you shut up, right? I mean, that's probably what was happening more often than not. And I can tell you that because I would be in a house building rapport for 2 hours, right? And so in lieu of giving anybody else a shot, because I was in there so long, I was winning that way. Worse though, if I was too short with somebody because I'm a D and they were super conscientious and I said something too quickly or skimmed over it or gave them the Reader's Digest version or the summary, I wasn't a fit. And I couldn't figure out why, right? And what you tend to do is when you're unconsciously incompetent, you blame the other people for your lack of success. You blame how they're behaving, what they're doing. So this is really what helps you create that self-image to absorb more from this business, because you understand, bite your tongue. Your high D is coming out and you want to tell somebody to shut up. Just bite your tongue, let him go, let him be, and let him punch himself out. That just happened an hour ago, by the way, with one of my clients, right? I mean, I think he's got a little touch of Alzheimer's, and he keeps rinsing and repeating the same thing as if he's getting screwed on a deal that he's hardly getting screwed, right? Let's just leave it at that. So naturally, I have to lean in a little bit. But I temper it now. I don't yell at him. I don't get defensive. I'm upset. And say, oh, here we go again. It's 6 o'clock at night, and here we go with Ed again, right? So, but I just calm down and I say, okay, data received. What am I hearing? Okay, stay focused. He's really focused on this, not that. So get him on that. And I did. So you see, it really helps me behave differently by being aware Ed's a high D too, but he's older, but he's used to getting his way. And you can't force a square into a round peg when your septic system needs an upgrade since 1991. So you just got to let him punch himself out. Say, Ed, I had to replace my own septic system for 20 grand at 2 houses. It's what happens to septic systems. They get old, right? I know you built a great house. Yeah, but I had the risers. Great. Ed, let's just get the test and let's see what the test says. When the test comes in, you keep telling me you're going to do the right thing to bring it up to snuff. Great. Let's get there. So he had to go through this, but I'm behaving much differently, even though my high D wants to go in there and just grab him, shake him by the lapels and say, stop. I'm in charge of this, not you, right? Even though he is deferring to me that way, I have to be that way, right? So I change my communication style and my behavior. Understanding your DISC personality profile can help you communicate more effectively with others by adjusting your communication and interaction. That's what I just said. Right? So if you understand your natural behaviors, meaning naturally you want to lean in and bite, or you want to talk too much, then you're going to communicate that way. Too short, too long, right? Those are the two types of things I could be, depending on my mood, by the way. If I'm in a bad mood, I'm going to cut to the chase. This. Got it? Yep. Nope. Okay. You don't want to listen to me? Screw you. Or, hey, let's talk for 3 hours. Did you get it yet? What do you mean you didn't get it yet? So that's natural, but I can change that. And I can interact in different ways with all of these people. So imagine me now with a self-image sitting back, using the walkthrough of the property to gauge, what do I have in front of me? And if I have spouses, partners, whatever, family members in front of me, I'm trying to figure out who's the dominant player in their group, who's leading this. Can I still recognize all the other parties? And I had 3 sisters, by the way, that I know them all, but boy, were they different, right? And so there were several of them that, one really, really liked to talk over the other 2 all the time, even though one was a D, and I could cut to the chase with her. Terry, what do you think? Yep. Okay, good. And then I would have to go through this other thing with Cheryl over and over and over. So These are real techniques used with the people on the other side, right? Now, by leveraging your strengths and improving your weaknesses, you can become a more effective team member too. That's the other thing. So, in the context of working with other people too, and again, I would call your sellers and your buyers. If you're working alone right now, you can do this. But for example, when we get to our coaching calls, they're difficult to hurt a lot of people in there. Now, I do have to lean in a lot more with my natural tendencies, D&I, to control a Zoom or a room because you don't want to lose control over it. But the people in the room with me need to understand this stuff, right? You have to understand this stuff to become more effective with people. You can't be a rollover for people. But in the same breath, you can't be so arrogant and egotistical in a moment that nobody's hearing you too. So it helps you with people too, right? And just not just the one-on-one with your client. And then I mentioned this before. You really have to commit yourself to a personal constant improvement, okay? So this whole Japanese philosophy of Kaizen is something that I remember reading or listening. I can't remember what I did, read or listen, about Kaizen as it relates to Toyota. I think there might be a book called The Toyota Way. I'm trying to remember back in the memory bank where I ran into it. I think it's The Toyota Way, maybe, where I learned about Kaizen, which is a Japanese philosophy, right? So by focusing on continuous improvement, you can make small incremental changes that add up significantly over time. And I am the walking crash test dummy with proof now. There were a lot of people that I coached back even about 9 years ago that doubted this. Well, how many expired listings have you got? That's what I would hear. And, oh yeah, how many times have you monetized that? And that's that real small brain that doesn't want to do anything but skim cream off the top and kill something and eat it, right? That's a very small part of our brain. It's the survival mechanism. So I'm empathetic to why people would say that to me. But here I am now having tripled my average sale price, tripled since those conversations. And it's because I knew the power of small continuous improvement had been proven out many times before. If you look at Warren Buffett, by the way, from a financial standpoint, he's one of the wealthiest people in the world. And he subscribes to this as an investment philosophy. He and his partner, now deceased, Charlie Munger, committed to this long, steady, like buy these best companies and let the good management companies that were in place, talk about being good team members, right? Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger would go out and hire people and say, we will buy this company predicated on you staying on, and we will largely leave you alone to keep doing what you do. And they became wildly wealthy, and so did all the people they invested in. So there are a lot of people well before us, companies, individuals that have practiced this. And if you look at their discipline to Kaizen, it's probably the singularly most powerful concept. It's very similar in financial models. For example, the power of compound interest is stunning. If you will skim off the top a little bit of your income or a little bit of your gross income that you get from this business, and you would put it consistently into an S&P 500 fund and earn the plus or minus 10% that it has returned over history, it's staggering how it multiplies. And if you're young on this call and you're listening to Kaizen as it relates to savings and putting it into the S&P 500 index, I'm telling you a guaranteed way to get wealthy. And that was Buffett's, philosophy about Kaizen as with respect to wealth, is that I could make you all rich, he said, but none of you would have the patience. Well, that's where I find myself with you tonight. How many of you will have the patience to continuously execute a plan when it's boring as hell, or worse, it feels like nothing's happening? I can't tell you other than show you if you can see this. If not, I'll hold it up afterwards. I'm holding up, which is essentially a brick or a block of sign-in sheets from open houses that I have individually done. I can't tell you how many quiet days, skunk days, rainy days, snowy days. I can't tell you how many I went through to build this. However, what I got out of it over the course of a year is staggering. It's staggering what this slow, steady implementation of a boring plan actually does. Now, I don't find it boring because all those people that signed in, I found fascinating. I love talking to people in this business, in their houses. I'm giving them that advice on what to do and what not to do, properties and giving advice on what's good, what's not good, meeting people generally that come into an open house that are fascinating people to me. Not all of them, but what an awesome thing to do. So I'm grateful for the conversation because I know the conversation is going to lead to fewer interested parties where I can give away my unique selling proposition, and then we can follow up over a long period of time. I'm super proud of Kathy for the follow-up that she just went through for 36 months with one of our clients who just closed at 4.95 million from 3 years ago, an expired listing where we just consistently stayed with it, right? So Kaizen, continuous improvement during that, and all that follow-up monetizes staggeringly large. But that's $123,000 commission. So if you don't think these little pieces of paper and these sign-in sheets and these telemarketing scripts and these things don't monetize, you just haven't continually committed to it. So the key to constant improvement is to establish the commitment and accountability. So that's what I'm saying. I said to somebody today, Debbie, in this interview, I said, Debbie, you get it. And you could kill this, right? You could do extremely well. However, I don't know how committed you will be. I don't know how accountable, self-accountable really you will be to show up, and you will listen to the trainings over and over and over, and you will ask your questions. I give Danielle Gonzalez some of the best credit, Andre credit, Luke credit. I know these people because they ask their own specific questions so they can assimilate this information so they can turn it into success, right? So by continuously improving your processes and systems, which is what I do for you every week, you can create a streamlined and more efficient organization for yourself. So when I tell you 2 + 2 + 2, that's the streamlining effect of Kaizen. I'm telling you, we have 2 spreadsheets, a GCI goal tracker that sets you up to start. And then every time you close one, you'll see if you're on target with what you set. A contact pipeline manager, AKA the simplest database I could make for you, that tells you if you're executing the plan to create prospects and follow up. How do you follow up and convert? You have cover letters that apply to all the types of sellers and buyers, and you have scripts that go along with them. Those are the ways you get things. And the things that you're offering are a buyer and a seller package, 2 + 2 + 2. I'm streamlining it down to that. And I'm telling you that contextually, if you can see in your self-image, staying accountable to those 6 major steps in a systematic approach, all the micros will follow. You don't have to go make something up. So it's streamlined and your business is efficient so that while you're running whatever else it is to make a living, you're super streamlined when you're bringing yourself into this business and you're not getting, all upset. But I will tell you that people fail with us all the time because they just stop. They just stop. And I try really hard to define your expectations for you. The faster that you will tactically get in front of people and make an offer and do it consistently, the faster I can prove to you that your self-image is consistent with success here, right? So that's what I was telling you about the theater of the mind. Maxwell Maltz, Psycho-Cybernetics is a must. So I will bring that up so that you can see it. And I would tell you that this here is the book. And now what I do recommend, because this is so significantly important, I do really, really, really highly recommend you get an audible version of it and the physical. This is one of those things where I think you should be really using all of your senses to get this message. I don't care how hard it is for you to read it slowly, right? And then listening to it, maybe it's simultaneously, maybe sequentially, I don't care, but I'm just telling you, I would do this. Okay. I would do this. All right. That's enough of the lecture piece of this. And again, as you know, we'll go to Q&A. You can ask me about this tonight, or you can ask me about anything and hit me with some coaching. So that's up to you, but I'll tell you, turn on the mics and have at it. Okay.
I just want to say how much I love you. I really do.
Oh, thank you. That's kind.
You made a big impact on me.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, that's really kind of you. You validate the work for me. So thank you for doing that, because you know how I am about this. Like I mean this from my heart, right? This is, it's a passion to give. I just want to see it work for you. Right. And when it does, you're sitting in Arizona. I can't help those people. You can through this. So appreciate that. And again, remember, it is applicable to all facets of life, right? It's not just
Absolutely.
business. Yeah. So thank you. Kind words. Appreciate it. What else? Questions from people tonight?
Hey, Danny.
Hi, Jackie.
I've been in Belize, but I've been tuning in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just got home. So all of a sudden, I did do nothing that I actually did. I can't believe this. I've gotten 4 buyer leads that just came to me, and I still can't figure out where they even came from.
Don't ask. It's
But-
the subconscious. Don't ask.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just like, okay, well, yeah, I'll help you. So we're looking at different properties, and all 4 of these buyers have expressed interest in homes that are undergoing short sales.
Yep.
So I'm wondering if it wouldn't be prudent to put together information packet just for short sale. And I wanted to run that by you and just see what you
Yeah,
what your thoughts
I
are.
wouldn't adjust it so much so other than some of the expectations for what a short sale entails, which is a longer closing process, right? Because there's third party approval. So I wouldn't make a whole, like people think that they have to go niche like that. I remember I was coaching a guy up in Quebec and that was his thought. Well, I'm going to write this whole program for FSBOs. What are you talking about? I mean, a FSBO is just a seller. A short sale buyer is just a buyer, right? It's just that the context of that particular type, it has to be explained to them. You have to be patient for a short sale because it is subject to a third party approval, meaning the bank has to approve the offer you're making. So you have to be patient with it, right? Otherwise, we need to move on to something else where you don't have to wait for third party approval. But the benefit of waiting sometimes is that third party approval is offering at a pretty good discount to where the market rate might actually be if these people weren't in trouble and upside down on their mortgage.
Yeah. Okay. I was kind of thinking that myself, but I was also trying to look for a way to offer something. But I didn't offer anything to get them. I guess it feels weird.
No, you do. See, that's the imposter syndrome. You do. You've been well trained on this. You've been well trained on how to take somebody through the process. So the bottom line is, okay, let's play really stupid simple. Did you give them a buyer package, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So now you're diminutizing your unique selling proposition. Don't do that. Don't do that. See, you're acting as if your self-image is, what did I warn you about, women? What did I warn you about tonight? What did I say? Lack of self what?
Image.
Worthiness.
Respect.
Worthiness.
Esteem.
Worthy. Yeah. As part of self-esteem, Deirdre.
Yeah.
Self-worthiness. I don't know what it is and why it's common. You just validated exactly what I was saying earlier. For some reason, when women get the benefit after having worked hard and practiced all this, and the subconscious leads them to this person, you don't have to know why. It's in front of you, right? But it's very much you practicing this and magnetically attracting business. And so just go into action. Wonderful. Not sure how this came to me, but I'm going to give this buyer package to empower this person. However they came to me, they're blessed and I'm blessed because I have the leadership skills to take them through a process. And I'm going to do that. Why do you feel like you have to do more than that? It's a good question based on the self-image, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't feel
Well, it's
worried.
everything you just said,
Yeah.
Danny,
Go-
tonight about like manifesting and
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah.
Bringing it to you, bringing the world to you, bringing the real estate world to you type of thing.
And right. And when it works,
She's doing it.
don't be shocked, right? Don't be
Yeah.
shocked.
So Jackie's doing it.
Right. So are you. So are you. You got a listing too.
Well, no, what my question was just going to be quickly.
Yep.
Yes, I'm a big fan of that. I've been studying that for a very long time. And, I've been retired from a pretty successful career and I'm getting into real estate now. And I love this. So,
yeah,
I have this mindset with you. I guess, so I'm challenged in a different way because when you said to me today,
yep,
bring me in to your listings.
Yep.
So in a way, I feel like, why am I bringing my boss in? Quote unquote, I would call you my partner.
Yep.
But without feeling compromised in some ways. Like, I guess we could tackle it together. And
Sure.
I know you said this to me today, but I have been struggling. I've had I haven't had a lot of listing presentations, but I've had just 2 in the last couple of weeks, as I told you.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to do it myself.
Yeah.
Because I do feel empowered to do it.
Yeah.
I am following your system to a T.
Mm-hmm.
And every single couple, I got one listing, I didn't get the other.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm batting, 500. But at the same point, they both loved the system. They loved everything. They had nothing negative to say.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I'm following the system, and
well, let's clarify what I said to you today.
yeah,
I love that you want to go out there yourself and do it. I love it.
yeah,
I think that's the faster you can all do that, the better, right? Because that's you're taking that self-image of seeing it in your head and actually doing the action and really making that connection with those synapses tighter. What I meant and should qualify now is don't be a secret agent to me. I'm your broker partner and I'm your trainer coach. Tell me what happened. Go through it with me, like Annabelle did today, because you're both, like, you and Annabelle are proud women. And I know you want to do it on your own. You're proud. I love that. I love the independence, but there's a reason for partnership. There's a reason for this. It's to bounce the stuff off, to refine. So just use me. You don't have to bring me in necessarily physically if you feel like you're going through it, but do an autopsy with me when you don't get one. Say, hey,
which I loved.
right?
I loved your feedback today.
I think just take me through it.
It was an objection I wasn't ready for.
Yeah, exactly. And
I will handle it next time.
That's right. Well, right, because I learned the same thing. So if I can make the bumps and bruises a little bit less because I've already gone through them and I have an anecdote, or if I see something new, which you do in this business all the time, I can say, in that case, Deirdre, I would do this. Right. So you're making adjustments. So bring me.
We're lifelong learners.
Yeah, 100%. Well, you and I share that because you have the professor background. So we share that. Right. But I love the proud. I think it's great. I just don't want it to be so proud that it becomes isolated. Right.
I'm losing things. I don't lose these things.
Right. So just
I won't do that.
Always bring an autopsy in. And even when you get one, ask yourself where you could have done even better. So you're competing against your own standard too.
Totally.
Right. So it's all just the more transparent we can be with what happened and the less intellectually and academically insecure we can become. I practice trying to be not ever academically insecure so that I wake up every day and go, what can I learn this week? Like I'm reading I'm reading John Steinbeck right now, Grapes of Wrath. I probably read it somewhere in high school. Right. But
that's a
right.
Yeah.
But I somebody came into the open house that bought one of the listing on Overlook. She's like, oh, you going back?
Oh, really?
Yeah. She looked at the book and she goes, oh, you going back and reading the classics, huh? I said, ooh, I like you. Right. And so, like, I'm always of that mindset that you got to always be learning something. And so you can't believe how much learning I try to squeeze into a day. So all I'm doing is encouraging you. And you're great. You come here. All of you come here. Don't be afraid to talk about what doesn't work or how do you get even better. That's a standard chase.
Oh, I so think none of us is as smart as all of us.
Yeah, no doubt.
That is a huge mantra for me. Like I want to pick everyone's brain and then move forward with like best thinking.
Well, that's how this system has been developed. I mean, for
so
years
great.
I've invited people in to beat on it with anecdotes and listen to the consumer feedback. What didn't we get? Listen, here we are.
I totally agree.
Here we are 20 years into like teaching this, 26 years into doing it. And I'm tweaking the open house formula. I'm tweaking what that fact sheet says and doesn't say with disclosures. We're talking about how to get through a smoke inspection better. This is this week, right? So
rules change and laws change.
Right.
And everything changes.
And you're pushing your standard though.
Yeah.
You're pushing your standard. Tony Robbins, Gail Rossetti, one of my coaching clients, is a Tony Robbins fan. And it's always about standards. Raise your standards against your own ideal. Right. So.
Love it.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. No, that was good. That was good feedback today too. And
congrats.
I was struggling with bringing you in and feeling like,
you
can practice
it right here. We don't even have to go to a house. Right. Say, hey, I'm going to take you
Yeah,
through these.
I'd rather debrief,
Yeah.
frankly.
Yeah. Or book,
we-
or before you go out to one, say, I want to just practice on you. I booked you out. I'm going to be in the office and run it through. Right.
I like that.
There's,
too.
there's,
Yeah, that's great.
there's
That's
so many
great.
ways
That
to
too.
use the resource
Right.
that you just have to do the one that's comfortable. Like,
and Laura's been great too.
yeah, good.
Like, I love her. Laura works.
Yep. She's the best. 20 years
She's the
later.
best.
Yep.
Great.
Hey, Dan,
Thank you.
Yes, Shauna, you're welcome, Deirdre. Congratulations. I'm happy for you.
where do we get the documents now? I have most of them, but I'm still missing a few.
Which docs do you want?
The forms that we fill out along with you as we go, or we just doing a PowerPoint now?
The forms versus the PowerPoint. Help me. I'm maybe in my brain's just tired tonight. Which forms?
I have most of the just like a worksheet that follows along, and as you teach, we fill in our blanks.
Oh, these things. Oh, for this course,
Yeah.
the fill in the blanks. Yeah. Let me do a better job of I'm going to put those in this document. Okay. So if you could remind me tomorrow, let me put in here.
Or you could put them in the YouTube.
Yeah, let me here. You know what I'm going to do though? Hang on one second. I want to give you, I'll give this to you so you and I can do this. This particular thing here is it's just the course topics, but I'll put a link to the fill-ins here, okay, in this, so that when I give this out, it's there. You can all grab this, by the way. It'll be in the chat for everybody. But Shauna, you'll manage me tomorrow, please, just to put this in. Okay. There you go.
All right.
Yep. So if you could just remind me tomorrow going into the mastermind, I'll do it. All right.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. I'm 7 minutes over. I don't like to go too far, but I want to make sure everybody had a chance to get something off their chest if they have something. Yeah.
Yeah, all good.
Okay, good.
Okay.
All right, good. Have a good night. And remember, tomorrow you can all jump on that call. Tommy, I like the golden thumbs up. That was good.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
All right, gang. See you tomorrow.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Emily.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Take
Bye.
care.